Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up guys, Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review. And for this review, Duncan Kyle and myself have been checking out the new album from Bristol quartet, Svalbard. The band's new album, When I Die, Will I Get Better, will be released on September 25th. So, these guys have been around since about 2011, and this album will be their third full-length album. This album was recorded at the Ranch Production House in February 2020, so not that long ago. An album was produced, engineered and mastered by Lewis Johns, who has worked with such bands as Employed to Serve, Rolo, Tomassi, Conjurer, Palm Reader, Loathe, Funeral for a Friend, to name a few.
What a resume, man.
I know, pretty awesome. Svalbard, either of you guys heard of Svalbard before this?
Didn't even know they were British.
I only know of the island north of Norway, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good start. Okay,
with a name
so
like Svalbard, you'd expect them to be like
I genuinely thought that was like once again, I'm glad that this stuff comes out at the beginning of the reviews, because one of my key points was this is really exciting Scandinavian music. Clearly isn't.
Really exciting. Big cross out.
Yep.
Bristolian music.
Yeah, my favourite time period was when they released that album Black Jazz.
oh god.
Only joking.
Let's not go down that route. Yeah, Svalbard, I'd heard of them, but I couldn't have told you like what they sounded like or named any of their albums. So, as per usual, I did go back and check out their last album.
So diligent, isn't he?
I know. I like to just get a little teaser, a little taster of what I'm getting myself into. That album was from 2018. It's called "It's Hard to Have Hope." And it's an excellent album, actually. Definitely a band that like to keep things interesting and varied. There's definitely lots going on stylistically, from like hardcore, post-metal to post-rock. Lots of different textures and interesting and varied ideas. When I listened to their new album, it definitely felt like they have refined certain areas of their sound. This definitely feels like a more polished, a more kind of developed sound in Svalbard. You'll notice, like, from the offset that the balance of those, like the hardcore and the post-metal and the post-rock elements that I mentioned have shifted since the last release ever so slightly. They're all still evident that they haven't removed any of those styles, but I'd say they've adjusted the kind of, I suppose, like the level of chaos almost ever so slightly. It's Hard to Have Hope was definitely a heavier album. The riffs were definitely more aggressive and more direct. Whereas on this release, the kind of post-rock moments definitely feel more front and centre. And I think that readjustment has actually made this release from Svalbard far more memorable. When I got through like my first spin of this album, it was kind of a different feeling I had than when I listened to It's Hard to Have Hope. I felt like this record had so much more kind of depth to it. It's more kind of profound feeling than the last album. Don't get me wrong, this album is still heavy, but it kind of hits you in a different way, if that makes sense. It still has weight to it, but it's not in the form of like a breakdown or a groove. It's more the kind of like the overall magnitude of the tracks that kind of creates that power. And I think for me anyway, a lot of that comes from the increase in those like post-rock elements. I was picking up vibes of like if these trees could talk, or even This Will Destroy You, and those melodies and like big like epic soundscapes really opened the band's sound up on tracks like Listen to Someone or What She Was Wearing even, but also works really well alongside the more kind of upbeat, the kind of hardcore tempos and rhythms on tracks like Clickbait or Silent Restraint. It's just fantastic. It really kind of elevates those tracks to the next level. Duncan, for someone that had never heard of Svalbard before, what did you make of this release?
Well, Dave, there's one thing that we know about Duncan. Duncan likes music that is layered and textured, and Svalbard
Yes, he does.
is full of that.
Yep.
This release really kind of caught me on the back foot. Put people in the picture. This album came in for review about the same time as two albums we've just covered in our most recent podcast. And they were all kind of grouped not in the genre that we've been covering a lot recently, which was weird. And they're all relatively short albums. This one clocks in under the 40-minute mark, but they pack everything in the kitchen sink into this one. What I loved about this one specifically was tone and atmosphere. Right from the off, we get this like almost like this soundscape of melody and tones and textures, and it's crisp and vibrant, and then it just opens up and you get these fucking eardrum kind of splitting screams, and the post-rock stuff definitely evident in it. They are a band that weirdly seem very, very comfortable mixing things up and not afraid to let melody sections run a lot longer than you would necessarily expect in tracks. Like some of those sections flow on where instead of hitting in and it's a chorus and it's a catchy bit and it uplifts the song, and then we go back into like that. They'll let like an introductory segment last a lot longer than you would expect for the build up, or even in an interlude section devolve into something like that as a chance to break out the songs. I thought the songs themselves are incredibly written, really well structured. Memorable is the big thing for me. This is another one that's had a few listens. Clickbait instantly just found its groove with me straight away, because Open Wound as an opener has that, and it's a great title for a song that starts off very much unassuming and then like really just goes for the balls. But Clickbait's the one where I think the kind of almost the tempo and tone of the release is there. It's kind of almost like a weird Rosetta Stone template for what the band's going to do following that. Silent Restraint and The Currency of Beauty are great examples, I think, of the band just flexing different extremities of their sound. And I think that's the word that came away from it, is extreme, not as in how we would generally use the word extreme when describing metal bands, but in terms of how disparate the two polars are for their sounds, whether it's that angry, kind of hardcorey, kind of weird punky, meshy, very visceral stuff, or this kind of not saccharine but kind of darkly somber sort of melody that sits on the other end of the spectrum, and how quickly they'll just go between the two. It's an infinitely fascinating listen. Like I went through it a few times and found myself gravitating towards different songs on each listen. The production is spot on. It really captures all the melody in a way which, when the heavier stuff comes in, it doesn't feel like, oh, we've just went into a completely different level of heaviness. It just like naturally just switches into, right, we're doing heavy shit now, and it fits perfectly within it. I'm like on board with this band like 100%. Svalbard are, you're telling me that they've got albums out before and they're kind of like this, kind of want to check them out. You're telling me they're from the UK, that makes me even happier because we can claim another band. But yeah, I mean, had I walked into this blind and you hadn't given me that information, I thought there was an element of we're mentioning a lot of Scandinavia, and Kyle's on here, and that's not why we don't often mention Scandinavia as much as we are just now, Kyle, and it's nothing to do with you. But yeah, I genuinely, I
appreciate it.
Yeah, I thought if I had to pin them on the map somewhere, I would have thought Sweden. Just in terms of the sound, but it's excellent. It's cold in places and really warm and rich in others, and that's not easy to find a good balance on it. And I think they've achieved it definitely on this one. Be eager to check out the other stuff. Yeah, loved it.
Nice. Kyle, what about yourself?
Yeah, I loved it too. It's I don't really know what I can add. It's standout track, I guess, is I mean, I love the opening. It was Open Wound. It's just like you said, the it went on for like unassuming, just like the intro was like, okay, so they're kind of, this is what they are, and then nope, switch it all up, switch the script. It's all just totally different now.
Yeah.
But it all works. That's the thing. It's like they're mixing so many different styles. It's like you've got blast beats in there and crazy weird time signatures and all this stuff, and I love that kind of music as well. It all works super well together. There's no like, oh, you've just taken this and this and mashed them together. It's like you've really stitched things together super well.
Yeah.
And the songwriting is absolutely unbelievable. The production I thought was a little bit too polished for my tastes. Like, you can definitely hear everything going on and you know exactly who's sitting where and what's doing what. But it's like, sometimes with music like this, you just need some fuzz on the edges, you know. It doesn't have to be so super clean and polished. But that's just a personal preference, I think. But the opening to Clickbait got me. That's the thing that really grabbed me on this one. The first track was like, yeah, I'm into it. The second track, the opening was like, okay, this is great. This is good. Yeah. And so that was that. And I think my favorite track on the whole thing actually was Listen to Someone. That, for some reason, just really, I don't know, got to me. I don't know, not got to me, but spoke to me. Yeah, I think it's, I mean, yeah. Also, the thing about being English as well is like, what? With a name like Svalbard? I mean, okay, I really thought they were Norwegian. I mean, the whole style of it too. It's got that sort of bleak sound to it, up in the, you know, a high-endy sort of bleak sound they've got with the dronings and things like that. And then the name Svalbard, and then the names of all the songs, and it's just like, oh, they're from Bristol. All right, I suppose I've been there once. It was kind of a bleak place as well, but
we've heard a couple of. Like, years ago, we got stuff in for Rock and Rails, which was on the punkier end from Norway. And they all have a specific ambience about them which screams, you know, there isn't a lot of sun here, it's freezing. We're only playing this fast to warm ourselves up. You know what I mean? And there's elements of that through there. They're aptly named. It definitely evokes an area of the world, and their sound definitely fits in that area. So
like
I don't know.
Silent Restraint. I mean,
I don't know how, you know what I mean, how prescient that is to them for that, or what the connection is, but it fits. Also, front runner for my favourite artwork on a release this month.
That's cool.
It's fucking The Tits, and you can check it out somewhere. I don't know. Do we put the artwork in the videos? I can't remember. If we do, stare at it. So
vocally as well, though, like between Serena and Liam, who are kind of sharing vocals, there's such a kind of range of like tones and textures on offer, and at two ends of the spectrum, like they're just as good as each other as well. Like, you often get bands that maybe lean more into one particular style, like a more like visceral vocal, because that's what they're good at. But here, each style is kind of delivered perfectly. Like, the balance is great, the tones are spot on, and I think the placement of each style fits the music down to the ground. I really like the production.
I'm with Dave on this, by the way. Sorry.
The last album was slightly probably more aggressive production wise, but I felt like the production on this really was like the kind of glue that kind of held everything together. Like, I think the wrong production on this album could have made it sound quite disconnected, but I found like Lewis Johns has done a great job of making this record sound really fluid and really cohesive. Like, I really enjoyed the sound of it. For me personally, I thought this was a step up from It's Hard to Have Hope, and I did enjoy that album, but this just sounds like a band that are more focused. They've made some adjustments, they've kind of reshaped certain elements, and the end result is just brilliant in my opinion. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. Rating wise for this one, it's a really strong album. I would probably go 4.5 on this for me.
The same, yeah. This one really spoke to me. This one's going to get played to death. It really is. I know for a fact it is. Just so much stuff for me to. This is why I like music that's diverse and, you know, isn't scared to be experimental and push it out. Is the re-listen value on something like that for me is always going to be there, because I'm going to find something new, or a new melody or a hook that I didn't pick up as much, that just resonates with me depending on what mood I've got. So yeah, 4.5.
Nice. What about yourself, Kyle?
I think this time next month, I'm going to be absolutely fucking sick of this album, just from the amount I'm going to have played it. So it's definitely a 4.5 from me.
Nice.
Just put on Hyper. I mean, that'll...
Oh no, you said it. It was finally out of my head. For fuck's sake, Duncan.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thoroughly recommend this album, guys. Check it out when it drops. It's called When I Die, Will I Get Better? If you want to check the band out, you'll find them at facebook.com/Svalbard UK. As I said, stunning album, one that we're all kind of recommending very highly, so definitely get on that when it drops. Thanks for checking out the review, guys. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.